Welcome to Muldrotha, to the Swamps of Dominaria. As far as opening hand goes, yeah, I like it. We've got Demonic Tutor that can definitely turn into a Life from the Loam really quick, so we'll keep on this one. This is a wonderful opening hand. Deathrite Shaman, Soul Ring, Swamp, Mesmeric Orb that's going to allow us to get some really good, get some good milling going, and then we'll be able to go for Demonic Tutor next turn for Life from the Loam. Hopefully we hit a lane off of that. Hey! Got a friend of the channel, so let's have some fun. Playing against Rafiq of the Mini. Let's go ahead and lead off with the Soul Ring. Yeah, let's do that. Let's go for Swamp. Let's go for Soul Ring, and let's go for Mesmeric Orb. Now, if we're worried about going from Life from the Loam, and it's always get to play against somebody that's a friend of the channel, and then we just run up to a quick start like that, but hey, that's magic sometimes. We're playing Muldrotha, the Gravetide. During each of your turns, you may play up to one permanent card of each permanent type from your graveyard. And basically, if you're new to Magic or you're not really sure what that means, permanent is going to be an artifact, enchantment, land, creature, basically not an instant or a sorcery. We're playing against Rafiq of the Mini, Exalted. Whenever a creature you control attacks alone, it gains double strike until end of turn. Let's go and get some Mesmeric Orb trigger going. Get that mill. Oh, yes. Life from the Loam. Okay, double fetch lands in the graveyard. Let's go ahead and go for Demonic Tutor. Yeah, I like that. It's going to be a really slow start for us, but we're going to get some good milling going, and that's exactly what we want to see, and we can make up for the land drops later. So let's go and go for Demonic Tutor. Let's go and go for Life from the Loam. Hopefully, our opponent doesn't have some sort of answer for Deathrite Shaman. That would not be good. And then we're going to go and pass the turn to our opponent. So we did cover both commanders. It is free time, and we can talk about whatever we want. Now, that's going to be Muldrotha. Now, not a ton of updates to Muldrotha since the last time that we've played. It's still pretty much the same core concept of the deck. It's really... What this deck is basically it's just kind of like graveyard good stuff, creature-based deck. There's not really a lot of planeswalkers in here. Planeswalkers also definitely a permanent type that you can run, but for the most part, we've got just a ton. It's just kind of like almost like 5-drop tribal, and I'll kind of cover what some of those are here in just a second. Draw to Sidisi's Faithful into the graveyard, and then Flooded Grove, and then draw to Jace's Archivist. So let's go and get down Deathrite Shaman. And then we'll go and kick it back over to our opponent. But yeah, it's basically just 5-drop good stuff. So we have Sidisi coming in at the 5-drop, Undead Vizier. That's going to allow us to basically turn our deck into whatever sort of tutor that we need to. Acidic Slime is going to keep all of our opponent's permanents in check. Something like Swiftfoot Boots. We do have Deranged Hermit, which is going to be our army in a can. Titania. We have Black Blue Tyagam. We have the Gitrog Monster, Underrealm Lich, which is a brand new card to the deck. And I didn't end up putting Doom Whisper in here. I don't know why I didn't. I'm going to put it in there after this game. That's not what we want to be doing. Let's go ahead and exile. Yeah, now that I think about it, we want Doom Whisper in here. Let's go ahead and exile Bant Panorama from our opponent's graveyard. Let's go ahead and add green mana to our mana pool. Let's go ahead and go for Soul Ring. Let's go ahead and go for Opulent Palace, Marsh Flats, and Wooded Foothills. Going to be able to bring all those lands back to our hand. Let's go and lead off with Opulent Palace. I guess technically we could go for Intuition if we wanted to. Yeah, let's do that. Let's go and get down Marsh Flats. Let's go and crack Marsh Flats. Let's go and get this popped out. Let's go and grab let's grab Underground Sea. Yeah, that's good. Let's grab Underground Sea. Let's go and go for Intuition. We're going to choose our opponent on this one. And we're going to search our library for 3 cards, and we'll reveal them. And the cool thing about Intuition is that with Intuition, it's basically just a 3-mana tutor in Muldrotha, which is just pretty busted sometimes. Let's go and grab Lion's Eye Diamond. Let's go for 3 visits. And then let's go for Excavator. Yeah, that's a wonderful spread for us to go for. So we've got a couple different things that we can end up doing with this. There we go. Click done. Lion's Eye Diamond, if it goes into the graveyard, that's perfect. It's going to give us a ton of mana with Muldrotha. Excavator is going to allow us to make a few extra land drops with the Gitrog Monster. And then 3 visits is going to allow us to kind of make up for the land drop or the slow start that we've gotten off to end up with a pretty good chunk of mana, especially with Soul Ring on the battlefield. So opponent's going to give us 3 visits. That is perfect. And then anything else, we're going to go ahead and pass the turn to our opponent. But yeah, like I mentioned, this is basically just kind of good stuff. We have Sidisi, Hostage Taker, Birthing Pod, Ravenous Chupacabra, just a ton of stuff. Now, as far as recurring spells out of the graveyard, if you're building Muldrotha, you don't really want it to be an all-permanent deck. There's different ways that you can kind of bounce around having just nothing but a ton of permanents. It's going to be stuff like Eternal Witness, bringing stuff back out of the graveyard. That's going to allow you to really basically kind of turn your graveyard into this thriving ecosystem to deal with whatever sort of threats your opponents get on the battlefield. Let's go and yield to this Mesmeric Orb trigger. Okay, Manglehorn, Fauna Shaman, and then Breeding Pool and Island. Let's go and Dredge Life from the Loam. And then that's going to be Snapcaster and Bloodstained Mire. Let's do this. So we're looking at Wooded Foothills and getting down Gitrog. That's going to allow us to go for a few extra land drops. I think I'd like that. Yeah, let's go to get down Wooded Foothills. Let's go to crack Wooded Foothills. Let's go and grab Tropical Island. Let's go and go for Gitrog Monster. Well, I guess technically we could just straight up just go for Muldrotha instead of the Gitrog Monster. Let's do that. Let's go and exile a forest out of our opponent's graveyard. We're going to add black mana, and then let's go and tap out for Muldrotha. That's going to allow us to go for Lion's Eye Diamond. And let's go and crack Lion's Eye Diamond, and pretty much everything going in the graveyard is perfectly fine. Let's go and crack Lion's Eye Diamond, add triple black to our mana pool. And let's go and go for a Seal of Doom. And that way, once they do go for the Swiftfoot Boots equip next turn, or actually we can just simply just go and go for it now. And that way we don't have to worry about any sort of extra, shenanigans from our opponent. Then anything else, we're going to go and pass the turn to our opponent. That's one of the downsides to Muldrotha is that she can be really oppressive sometimes. Really, we've got a 22 card hand essentially with Muldrotha, and that's what makes this deck so powerful. You can see they went for a Lion's Eye Diamond activation. We got rid of our entire hand. Really, we just, the more stuff that we get in the graveyard, the more powerful Muldrotha is. And it really is kind of telling in her art. You can tell that's pretty much it. She starts to dredge up a bunch of stuff and becomes this really powerful creature to kind of deal with. Now, if our opponent does have some sort of spot removal, oh, look at that, Titania. All right, let's go and Dredge Life from the Loam. Okay, and let's go and go for Gitrog out of the graveyard, because this is definitely the sweet spot for the deck. Let's go and pay one more. Underground Sea. Let's go and go for Polluted Delta. Let's go and swing it with Muldrotha. It's going to be a 6/6. And also, one of the cool things with Muldrotha is once you get down, where is it? Pernicious Deed. You get the, Path to Exile. Okay. Going to get it. All right, that's going to get rid of Muldrotha. Okay, yes, we'll definitely use that ability to get an extra land on the battlefield. It's going to get swamped down. And then let's go ahead and go for a Bloodstained Mire crack. That way we get a little bit of card draw off of Gitrog Monster. Draw into Mancer. And then let's go and we should have gone for the Lion's Eye Diamond crack before we swung in. Let's go and grab Overgrown Tomb. We're going to go and shock Overgrown Tomb in because we want to go for Life from the Loam. Let's go and go for Life from the Loam. Let's go and grab Breeding Pool. Let's go and grab Island. And then let's go ahead and grab Wooded. Actually, let's go and grab Command Beacon. Yeah, we'll grab Command Beacon. Let's go and pay green. And we're going to exile. Bummer. Let's go and exile a land out of our graveyard first. Let's go and get rid of, at this point right now, I'm going to get rid of Polluted Delta. Let's go and add a green to our mana pool. Now let's go for Life from the Loam on Command Beacon, Breeding Pool, and we're just going to grab Bayou. There we go. Get those lands going back into our hand. It will allow us to make an extra land drop too. Let's go and get down Breeding Pool. Not going to pay 2 life, and that's going to be all the land drops that we can make for the turn. And we're going to go and pass the turn to our opponent. Now, like I said, we're still in a pretty good position at this point right now. We go for Command Beacon, sacrifice it. That's going to put Muldrotha back into our hands, and then we can recast it for really cheap. And that's one of the great ways to really take advantage of Muldrotha's graveyard abilities. You can just basically keep reusing Command Beacon. We get it down, sacrifice it. We can make an extra land drop with Gitrog, and then once we bring it back onto the battlefield. So basically, it's going to keep Muldrotha's commander attacks at 6 mana for pretty much the entire game, unless your opponent has some sort of graveyard hate or something like that. Now, that's one of the downsides of this deck is if your opponent does have graveyard hate, it is really hard to get stuff moving with Muldrotha. That's why I kind of built this really good stuff style deck. That way we can kind of stop ourselves from just getting completely shut down to graveyard stuff. Okay, let's go and always yield to that Mesmeric Orb trigger. And then we do have to sacrifice a land. Let's go and sacrifice a swamp to this. And we're going to Dredge Life from the Loam. We're okay with that. It's going to get Hostage Taker, Toxic Deluge, and then Rancor in the graveyard. And And then tie against Sidisi's hand. Oh, and look how that interaction with the Gitrog monster and Mesmeric Orb. We need to be careful. We do not have a safety valve in this deck. I just now remembered. I don't think we do. I don't think so. We don't have a safe. Yeah. Okay, so we need to be careful. Let's go to get down Ancient Tomb. Now, one of the ways that we can, when it comes untapped, yeah, we need to do something to help kind of close this out. Because if we discard our hand, that's going to give us access to a pretty good chunk of mana. Let's go and get down Ancient Tomb. Let's go and get down Command Beacon. Let's go and sacrifice Command Beacon. Let's get that going back into our hand. Let's go and go for Muldrotha. Okay, we're going to get Muldrotha down. That will allow us to go for Lion's Eye Diamond, give us a little bit of extra mana to work with. Let's go and get down Lion's Eye Diamond. And then we're going to take over our opponent's graveyard just to have a little bit of better kind of look at what's going on. Let's go and cast Rancor out of the graveyard too. Let's go and put that on Gitrog. It's kind of like we're building a little bit of a mini Gitrog deck right now. Gitrog Hypnotoad. Let's get Rancor on this. It's going to be 8/6 with Trample. And then we still have Lion's Eye Diamond to go for too. Then we do have that extra mana floating. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's go ahead and crack Lion's Eye Diamond. Let's go triple blue. And we don't want to dredge life from the loam at this point right now. And then we do draw into, Seal of Primordium is actually exactly what we wanted to see. Let's go for Mancer out of the graveyard. And what we're going to do is we're going to go and bring back Toxic Deluge, because that's going to be a way for us to get out from underneath that Swiftfoot boot. So let's go ahead and grab that. Yeah, Toxic Deluge. There we go. Let's go and grab Toxic Deluge. And let's go and swing in with Gitrog Monster. That's going to be an 8/6 swinging across. Because it's knocking down to 22. And then anything else, yeah, we'll go and exile a land out of our graveyard. Let's go and exile Island. And we'll add green mana to our mana pool. And then we'll go ahead and tap this last Underground Sea, get down Seal of Primordium. There we go. Now, unfortunately with Mancer, the play that I was going for was to bring back Toxic Deluge. And so once we drew into Seal of Primordium, that kind of negated that thing. But I still like having access to Toxic Deluge, especially if our opponent has some sort of spot removal. Now, as far as stuff untapping, we're looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So we're looking at 9 permanents untapping. We are sitting at 42 cards in our library. So that's something that we need to definitely take into account, that we don't mill ourselves out. And just basically need to work on getting some sort of safety valve. You know, it's one of those things where you put all these different graveyard style stuff in here, and Sovereigns of Lost Solara. Whenever creature you control attacks alone, search your library for an ore card and put it on the battlefield, then shuffle your library. Okay. Now, what we can do is we do have Seal of Primordium. To get down Sovereigns, we can go for Seal of Primordium and blow up whatever sort of enchantment that is, depending on what that is. Hopefully that might allow us to maybe kind of stabilize, and then we can kind of go from there. Okay, opponent's going to get the Exalted, double Exalted triggers. And let's see what they do end up searching with Sovereigns of Lost Solara. Now, I will say this from a recording perspective. With a deck like Muldrotha, there is so much stuff going on that if you're sitting there saying, hey, why didn't you do this Jolt? Why didn't you go for this line of play? This is the better line of play to go for. When there are just basically so many different decision trees in a game, it's really hard to make sure that you're delivering good commentary and at the same time doing the best line of play. And then, you know, you're playing something like Muldrotha that is really overpowered. You're trying not to just stomp the game out super quick. So if there's a certain line of play that I missed or I didn't go for, or you're trying to like, well, why did you do that? You know, basically, you know, with a deck like this, there's so many different things that we can go for. It's really hard to not just sit there and chew up the clock. And all right, so opponent's going to go for Steel of the God. All right, so let's go and go for Seal of Primordium on, Steel, because that's going to get rid of that life link. At this point right now, we're attacking our opponent's life total. That's what we want to get going. Now, we do have Toxic Deluge we can go for. We have to go for 5 to clear out the entire board. That does get rid of Deathrite Shaman, and it still does leave Gitrog on our side of the battlefield. And basically at this point with Sovereigns, well, with them being tapped out, we can actually go for Seal of Doom. I think I like doing that. So we're going to get these triggers on the stack. We're going to go and sacrifice Swamp to the Gitrog monster. And we're not going to dredge at this point because we need to hopefully just kind of not just die. And then not going to do that. Yeah, You know, it's good that we're getting some good card draw going, but once we start hitting these lands with Gitrog Monster and then Mesmeric Orb, now what we'll probably end up doing is, now that I think about it, is we'll go for we can't go for Seal of Primordium to get rid of Mesmeric Orb. We're definitely probably going to go for that. That's going to allow us to slow down this graveyard for sure. It is kind of funny though. This is definitely a graveyard player's dreams at this point right now. Okay. You can see how silly this just, oh, it's just goofy sometimes. Okay, we do have access to that one mana. We can go for Snapcaster if we want to use that extra mana. That'd be Snapcaster on some sort of removal, but I don't think we have any sort of spot removal at instant speed. Yeah, it's okay. We're just gonna miss out on that swamp. That's okay. All right, so we're not gonna dredge anything. And then we do draw into Entomb. Let's go ahead and, how do we want to sequence? So we go for Eternal Witness. I like this. So we go for Seal of Doom. There we go. We go for Seal of Doom. That's going to allow us to target sovereigns. Then we go for Plague Crafter, or excuse me, Merciless Executioner. And that's going to get rid of the Knight. And that's going to allow us to go for Mercenary. Each of us sacrifices a creature. And let's go and sacrifice Merciless, and our opponent's going to sacrifice them. Now, let's go ahead and make the land drop out of the graveyard. Let's go ahead and grab Forest. Let's go and go for Eternal Witness. Let's bring back, okay, basically we went for Eternal Witness. I realized there's a different line of play that we can go for that I like a little bit better. So yeah, we're going to go ahead and bring that swamp back to the hand. That's going to allow us to make a land drop for the turn. I was going to go for Lion's Eye Diamond. And then next turn we can go for Manglehorn. I was trying to set it up to where we could somehow get it done in the same turn with the Lion's Eye Diamond activation. But let's go ahead. Actually, we can do this. So we go for... Okay, let's go and swing in. That's going to be Muldrotha, Gitrog Monster, Mancer. That's going to be them swinging in for 14. That's going to be 15. Put them down to 7. Yeah, sorry. I realized with Animate Dead, what we can do is, yeah, we can basically just Animate Dead. We can use Deathrite Shaman and Animate Dead to bring back Manglehorn. There we go. Sorry. There's just literally like 50 cards in our graveyard, so I'm trying to make sure I'm doing it all right. I was going to go for Animate Dead on Manglehorn. There we go. Okay. Now we're getting similar. Let's go and exile Twilight Mire. Let's go and add black to our mana pool, and definitely shout out to our opponent for sticking this one out. This is just kind of fumbling over our graveyard. So we're going to go for Manglehorn. That's going to get rid of a Mesmeric Orb and still keep our creatures on the battlefield. So there we go. I like that. And, you know, part of the thing is, you know, I'm recording and we've got a pretty good game going so far. And the last thing I want to do is get to the end and mess something up. So we're going to go for Manglehorn on the Mesmeric Orb. And that's going to get rid of it. And then we're going to go and pass the turn to our opponent. So they do need some sort of board wipe to kind of stop what's going on. And like I mentioned, Muldrotha is kind of a pain to play against, especially in 1-versus-1 commander. So sometimes this does happen. Opponent's going to go for Sun Titan. And I appreciate them... you know, letting us chew up the clock just a little bit to kind of figure out what we need to get going on our side of the battlefield. So they go for Sun Titan. That does allow them to go for something like Steel of the Godhead. That's going to give Sun Titan lifelink. It's going to allow them to gain a little bit extra life. They go for Swiftfoot Boots. It's going to allow them to swing in with, I think that's going to be, yeah, it's going to be an 8/8, and it can't be blocked. That's going to attack our life total, put us down to 10. So that's a pretty good little swing from our opponent. We'll see if we can't get it in on the back end. Especially once they get down Swiftfoot Boots, it's going to be a lot of us having to kind of jump through some hoops to get rid of Swiftfoot Boots, steal, and get rid of Sun Titan. So we'll see what they end up doing for the rest of the turn. Okay, so they do end up going for steal of the Godhead, and that will be Swiftfoot Boots. So that's going to be 7 life gain. That's going to put them back up to 14. And then whatever attacks, they get to bring back something else to the hand too. That's going to be Rancor, which is going to be they can go for Rancor, which is going to be +2/+0. That's going to put it at a 9, puts us down to 9, and then they gain 9, puts them to 16. 14. I think either way, well, it does have Vigilance. That's going to be hard for us to deal with. Okay, and I guess at this point, we'll just go and block with Manglehorn, because that way we can get Manglehorn into the graveyard. I think that'll be good. We can recast it, go for Swiftfoot Boots, and then go for something like some sort of removal on that. Yeah, I like this. So we're going to go for Manglehorn. That's going to allow us to block on Swiftfoot Boots and at least get rid of Sun Titan back into the graveyard on our opponent. Okay, we do have to sacrifice a land. We'll just go and sacrifice a swamp at this point right now. And then not going to dredge anything off the Gitrog monster. Draw into Blooming Marsh. And draw into Temple of Deceit. Let's go and go for Manglehorn. That's going to allow us to target Swiftfoot Boots. And then we can go for Seal of Doom out of the graveyard. So take care of Swiftfoot Boots. Definitely want to do that. And then where is Seal of Doom? There we go. Seal of Doom. That's going to be triple black off Ancient Tomb. It's going to put us down to 9. I think that should be exactly lethal once we go for the Seal of Doom crack on Sun Titan. But yeah, and this is one of the not downsides, but in 1 versus 1, when you've got like basically a 50 card hand, you can pretty much find an answer for anything. But that's going to be 3, that's going to be 11, that's going to be 17, and that will be 18 with Deathrite Shaman if we wanted to go for something like, you know, exiling something to attack their live total. But that's going to be it. Good game to our opponent. Thanks for sticking it out. All right, good game to our opponent. Fortunately, they weren't able to get that much going, but you can see where they almost kind of put us a lot of pressure on us. They got down Sun Titan right at the end, Steel of the Godhead, and then also Ranker is a great way to you know, get a little bit of life gain. But with Muldrotha, 50 cards in the graveyard in the swamp, that makes her a very, very happy graveyard queen. And as you can see, it is just really it's just really hard to bounce back from a 50 card graveyard with no sort of a graveyard hate in check. So, good game to our opponent. If you enjoyed the video, like and subscribe. Thanks. Bye.